Welcome back to The Matrix, episode 110. What do you mean there hasn't been one of these for a year? Nah, that's on you. You must have missed them. I've been meditating mindfully in my matrix of Doctor Who mythology.
Did you know that for one story only, Yasmin Khan was canonically Caucasian? Did you know that the 1960s wave of Dalek mania and all the merchandise was a Dalek ploy to invade toy shops? Did you know that K9 was active on Platform 1 in Series 1, Episode 2? It happened, and there are ramifications for this kind of continuity tomfoolery.
Here's 3 more things that will change all of Doctor Who lore for you. Well, it's finally come to this. Retro regeneration. I had this segment for this video planned for so many years that it eventually came true. But here's the thing, retro regeneration has been a staple of the series for a very, very long time.
Can you change back?
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Oh.
Can you?
No.
Liar. That is a lie. Allow me to now catalogue every instance of the Doctor going back through the old faces. First off, obviously, we have the Curator. We're going to be returning some old favourite faces in the years ahead, such as 4, 6, and 11, all of which apparently the Curator uses. And here's where the Doctor Who favouritism comes in. The Doctor has favourite faces. Through the magic of Big Finish, we've seen the Curator in at least 3 bodies.
And in years to come, you might find yourself revisiting a few, but just the old favourites.
The Doctor has some unique taste. Nobody let him on the internet forums. This isn't even the first time the 10th Doctor's been involved in retro regeneration. The Fountains of Forever is a Titan comic where 10 is regressed in age. For all of half an issue, the 10th Doctor wore the face of Christopher Eccleston.
Huh, no teeth. What's going on around here then?
Don't worry, he got better. Hang on though, that's not how regeneration works. When the Master turned Tennant into Dobby the House Elf, he didn't become Peter Capaldi. I mean, I don't think so. The same thing happened in The Then and the Now. Titan Comics really love their easy cameos. It's the middle of the Time War, so fair enough, there's going to be some shenanigans, and it stops at war for, in this case, thematic reasons. Then there was the time that all of the past incarnations got extracted from the 9th Doctor and became a hulking rage monster. Titan Comics, we know you have access to the likenesses of previous actors. Can we have this thing fight the Absorbaloff, please? Once and Future was a lot of things, but let's keep it objective, and objectively in that, the Doctor degenerated into all of his past incarnations, and a couple future ones. After a bizarre assault course of cameos, crossovers, and memory wipes, the War Doctor gets to the bottom of a conspiracy started by the 11, who is experimenting on all kinds of renegade Time Lords, seeing what makes regenerations tick. The Master also got hit by the degeneration gun or whatever, but that actually makes their timeline probably make more sense. In Touch the Nuzra, the 3rd Doctor and the 4th Doctor are coexisting, sort of sharing a body. Sexy. On the brink of death, the 4th personality actually did manifest, and Pertwee had to push it back down. In Sky Pirates, the 7th Doctor is forced back all the way to the 2nd Doctor, and every single face in between. State of Change. That's the faces of Doctors 1 through 6 making an appearance. Turns out that just normal radiation will make him freak out between forms. And that's very funny because that has never come up again. Doesn't the Doctor die most of the time due to radiation poisoning? Wilf, it would be my honour.
What are you in here for?
And in Time Slip, the clue is in the name, the 4th Doctor becomes John Pertwee and Patrick Troughton and William Hartnell. Very briefly, but it happened. And then Funhouse, which actually I can't find anywhere. These guys are all over the show. You think Tennant's had too many incarnations? How many times has the Doctor been Patrick Troughton? It's one of those fun visual cues to let you know that something timey-wimey is happening that you couldn't do on TV. Well, someone did it on TV. In every single medium other than TV, though, it's a very fluid thing. It happens pretty often. I can't think of a single Doctor that isn't involved in retro regeneration. 12? 13? No, I mean, I'm not 13, obviously. David Tennant and Russell T Davies are aghast at the idea of an old face coming back. But actually, there's precedent, you know? Oh, wait, no, that's not true. Capaldi also deregenerated through all of them. Capaldi, Smith, Tennant, Eccleston, all the way back to Hartnell. That was in The Lost Magic. This happens so much. There is not a single Doctor. Maybe Shooty, you know? Maybe he can keep his face for more than 2 seconds. Or maybe he'll turn back into David Tennant. We don't know anymore. I'm trying to think of any other Time Lords this has happened to, just like of their own volition. I think the War Master does go between Jacoby and the small kid. But now we know that the 14th Doctor isn't actually a retro regeneration. So where did this idea even come from? Well, like most things, it's an 80s baby. It's a Wilderness Years headcanon. The first Time Lord this ever happened to was Sokra, from the War Games. Through his multiple appearances in the EU, he de-digivolved just because of contradictory canon. Look, no, you can't blame him. Who among us wouldn't want to knock off a couple years off our age? You know, not me, I'm 27. I'm on top of the fucking world. But you. And really, whether it's the Guardians of the Edge or something a lot more literal, I like that all of the incarnations of the Doctor still live inside them and can be brought out. Like Ben 10.
And now Jay, coming in for a cameo, going to read us an excerpt of the book Verdigris.
A kind of door opened in the bear's vast stomach, and to Joe's silent astonishment, out stepped a very short, mostly bald man in a pink and grey suit. His cravat was salmon pink, and held in place with an exquisite diamond pin.
For context, Joe has been driven here into unit headquarters by a cabbie who is described as a troll man. Like literally a J.R. Tolkien troll.
I don't feel like I understand more about the story now.
I'm sorry, well, I'm just giving you the hard facts. Here's my Joe impression. Better tell me what's happening here.
Think of it as an exam, my dear. No, unit itself was the illusion. It was simply another stage in your training. The Brigadier, the Doctor, even the lady who served the tea, all of them actors and illusionists. Nothing, don't you see, nothing in the last 2 years of your life had any credence or truth or value whatsoever.
But why?
Use your common sense, girl. Do you really think there would be an organization like UNIT here in the 1970s, pledged to protect Earth from alien life forms? Do you really think there's such a thing as life on other worlds?
There is. I do. I've been there.
If you'd been a little more cynical, you'd have seen through our inventions.
Daleks and spaceships and guns.
Didn't they sometimes look a little unconvincing?
That's just how...
Is this breaking the
It's
fourth
breaking
wall?
the fourth wall and back again, Jay. That's how things are, isn't it?
They were all special effects. It's all a put-on, my dear.
But why? It's so cruel.
To test you, and you have failed. To be clear, am I the small pink bald man that emerged from a bear? The malign and dwarfish pinstripe man grabbing at Joe to kiss her. She's struggling with him. She's about to cast him off, send him toppling into the bear from which he emerged to enrage her.
What if I told you that's only like the 5th craziest thing in this book?
I would believe you fully.
I'll level with you, Jay. Context doesn't really help. What we have here is a scene of Joe being straight up gaslit into believing UNIT never existed, because Joe always wanted to be a spy. So her initiation was to work for a alien-busting sci-fi troupe with an alien man, and then go into space as well, all as a ruse to see if like she could keep a secret.
That's pretty. I mean, I was reading that, thinking, are they actually doing this? Did someone write a book where?
Are we debunking all of Classic Who?
I would be annoyed by that.
It turns out it's not the case. It turns out the gaslighter has been gaslighted himself.
How many layers of gaslighting are there in the story?
At one point, massive spoiler, someone takes off the disguise, revealing, oh shit, it's the Master. And about 10 chapters later, the Master takes off another mask and it turns out it's someone completely different.
That's a great twist. I love that.
It's fucking excellent. This book is mania. And I haven't even spoken about Iris Wildtime.
Is she in this?
It's her story.
And Joe is in it as well.
And now, today, reading an extract from the Book of Verdigris, Mr. TARDIS. Face it, Iris. You aren't even a proper time lady. They don't even know who you are. Where did you come from?
He said, not unkindly.
If they found out about you, they'd do the same to you as they did to me. They'd wipe you out of history. You'd be an abomination to them. I know.
You don't know the half of it, Doctor, I said. You rant and rail about what a rotten deal you got from the Time Lords, but at least you're posh. At least they think it worthwhile to exile you and impound your ship. They wouldn't dare atomize you or pretend you didn't exist. Not like me. What did you call me? I'm common. Common as muck.
I'm sure I'm not as important to them as all that, he said.
You underestimate how much they know about you. They know you're not just some simple renegade. They know more about your past lives than you even think. He looked completely baffled. You know, the stuff that's meant to be secret. Your past. That's why they've just bunged you away on some backwater. They know you've got a history and a destiny to fulfill.
Well, thoughts on that?
I know nothing about Iris at all either, so this is just the page you've sent me, and past lives that the Doctor seems to know genuinely nothing about as well.
Oh, don't be so sure. He's being very coy about it. From Paul Mars' point of view, it's fortune-telling, but from Iris's, it's a leak. Paul Mars was on the Brains of Morbius game before Chibnall ever touched it.
Brains of Morbius is still in the nursery compared to this.
She knows the Timeless Child mystery. There is no reason that she should. You can never be certain whether this character is telling the truth. But she seems to know that the Doctor is a god.
Yeah, well, maybe she's been gossiping with Lady Painfort.
It's all gossip. Yeah, ladies' night.
Oh, you won't believe what the Doctor got up to today, darling.
Look, all us dickheads watching Flux trying to get some answers. Iris Wildtime could have told him at any point.
Yeah, the answer's been there the whole time in that double-decker bus.
What else does this woman know?
Stop looking so mopey. We've got a party to go to. Way!
Yeah, because Lung Barrow was a couple of years before this, yeah?
Yep. I actually messaged Katie Manning about this, and the lovely lady replied saying, I didn't know anything about this. Like I purposely was accusing her of, I'm gonna leave Miss Manning alone.
What other secrets have you been carrying, Miss Manning?
It should be stated that Iris isn't a villain of the series. Like, she can sometimes be the antagonist of a story, but she's actually in love with the Doctor. I don't think there's any good reason why she would hold this back from him.
Yeah, unless the idea is just to watch him squirm.
It's very much a dominatrix dynamic. So maybe you're onto something. Yeah. There are maybe 3 passes at sleeping with the Doctor in this book. And tell you what, she almost gets there.
You know, the one in the blue box. I even remember when he used to be a bloke.
Mike Yates sat limply in the hospital bed beside Joe Grant. At the unit Christmas party last year, he'd opened up a little, before spoiling it by snatching a clumsy, awkward kiss from her in the hallway. Joe gasped, shocked to see how pale and hairless he'd become. Mike Yates was a soldier, an outdoorsy type. Now he just looked wan and thin and two-dimensional. He wasn't just skinny, he was flattened out. He rotated his hand before both their faces, and there was even an edge to it, as if he barely had any depth at all. It was exactly as if he were made out of cardboard. It's spreading, said Mike. It began with one finger, now it's both of my arms. Joe stared in horror at her erstwhile colleague as he gathered up the bedclothes to his flattening body. What in the fuck is it?
I think your one's sweet. I think yours is very cute.
Okay. All she knew was that here was someone whom she regarded as a friend, and he was afflicted by some vile and unknown dimensional instability. She didn't even think to run and find the doctor. She found herself, instead, determined to take Mike to the place where she had seen him last, thinking that somehow the root of his predicament must lie there. She was like a girl possessed as she stood, suddenly, and unshouldered her bag. She reached for Mike and found him amazingly... Wait... What in the hell? Hang on.
So, Joe Brennan. Context. Verdigris is a giant green crystal man.
Of course.
I'm throwing you right in the deep end here. This is at the end of the book of Verdigris.
Yeah.
And he is now sat in a Chinese takeaway ordering prawn crackers with the master. Take it away with the spoilers.
The master stroked his beard and stared at the menu again, wishing he'd asked for some prawn crackers with his order. Why don't you just hang around and generally make his life a misery? Verdigris looked uncomfortable. Go on, the master said eagerly. I'm not going to be around to do it.
You're leaving?
Oh, that's good. That's a green crystal monster if ever I've heard one. I've had quite enough of this absurd world. I'm going to see what I can get up to elsewhere. I've planned a few meetings here and there. Scaro, for example. What master is this?
This is Delgado, like right before the Doctor goes to space.
Verdigris looked shocked.
You never give up, do you?
The master was smug. I'm ruthless, obviously. That's what you never understood when I allowed you to use my persona for that little while. And as for kissing Miss Grant, he shuddered. What's been going on?
Verdigris is really touchy. He's a shapeshifter who's been pretending to be the master throughout the book, as well as the Brigadier, and shooting a bunch of kids. On 2 different occasions, he attempts to get chummy with Joe Grant.
Ooh.
It's really creepy and weird and never addressed in the book. He just wants to smooch Joe Grant.
I mean, I can understand the sentiment of wanting to smooch Joe Grant, but I think...
yeah, but I don't go ahead and do it.
There are social protocols. Yeah, exactly. There are things in place to kind of make that a two-way arrangement.
You would hope.
Yeah, and I think Unit HR needs to get involved there. Verdigris found himself becoming utterly miserable. Never mind, the master slapped his back. You just hang around and do your worst.
The Doctor scares me.
Oh, come on now, chuckled the master. You've got to interfere with his life. That's what you were created to do. Verdigris nodded.
But I can do it without meeting him again, can't I? I can work from the wings.
How so? Asked the master.
I've been thinking about antimatter,
said Verdigris.
There's a whole universe of it out there. Someone whispered about it in the legends from the corner. Someone called Omega. If we could somehow arrange it that Omega learns of the Doctor's presence on Earth, we might, but...
Not we, Verdigris. Just you. I'm not popping off into any universe of antimatter. It sounds ghastly. You can do what you want. He started to stand up.
Sorry, Verdigris is begging him to do a team-up, and the Master's just not having it.
The Master's like, I'm going to sit here, eat my prawn crackers.
So... who is Verdigris? At this point, you might be asking, who is this green diamond man?
I am asking. He sounds awful.
Verdigris is a creation of Iris Wildtimes, who she created whilst blackout drunk with green magic, sorry. Because, as we all know, Iris Wildtime is a member of the Sisterhood of Khan.
Oh yeah, I knew that, yeah.
She's actually in Brains of Morbius, apparently. Just watching the man she's in love with be burned to death. So keep an eye out for that next time you're watching Brains of Morbius, I guess. Iris got blackout drunk and was so angry that the Doctor got exiled to Earth that she, like on a complete bender, created an abstract being and told it to free the Doctor. As a result, creating a supervillain. But hey, I've got too many other questions to worry about that right now.
He turned to the doleful-looking Verdigris. You'll just have to go it alone. I'm off. Verdigris watched him stride out into the dark with his dinner.
I ordered menu D as well,
he reminded her. But your friend, she stammered. He took both.
that's the final note. What a dickhead.
That's wonderful. That's the most mischievous thing the Master has ever done.
But also the most relatable.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he wanted prawn crackers of his own. I don't know if Verdigris got prawn crackers.
Well, that'd be a spoiler, Joe. Come on.
Typical. He should have never let himself get involved with the Master. As he walked out into the night, contemplating his trip into the antithetical universe, he consoled himself with the thought that surely this Omega person would be a much more balanced individual. I hope that goes well for him. I really do.
Well, in a way it kind of does, because now we know that the events of the Three Doctors is set up by this really awkward, lame villain.
What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? I see that you know your judo well.
She folds him up and puts him in her purse. What in the fuck? Okay. I love this show. She was like a girl possessed as she stood, suddenly, and unshouldered her bag. She reached for Mike and found him amazingly lightweight. He was exactly like a silhouette cut from cardboard. Yes, she knew what she had to do. Jo slid him out of the bed and, pursing her lips, folded him neatly up and slipped him into her handbag. Then she stole guiltily out of the hospital.
Maybe that's just the canonical ending of Mike Yates in the Doctor Who series. Just a little paper man. A little paper Mario. It's never found out why this happens or who did it. There is a villain in this book, I guess, but it's not clear if he has 2D powers. So it really is just a thing that happens.
We were laughing because I brought up how funny it would be if it just went unsolved in this novel. Like, if he just remained a little, like, purse accessory. He just wastes away as a little origami figure.
Oh, I love it. How can I take Mike Yates out of action?
Okay, we've got a plot here, but really quick, I just want to establish that I hate Mike Yates. It's like an intermission.
The Doctor started ticking things off on his fingers. Let's see. With all the disappearance of all unit personnel, including the Brigadier and Mike Yates, who have turned into a... Oh my god, what? Who has turned into a cardboard shadow of his former self. We've got a spacecraft full of very irate, handbag-worshipping aliens hovering above the planet. We've got a forest of deadly trees on fire. A mysterious green man who seems to be our sworn enemy. And on the other hand, we've got a killer robot sheep and the safety of Jo and Tom to account for. Is that a fair summary?
Iris thought and said, "Yes, Doctor. That seems to about cover it." So, what do you think of Verdigris?
There's so much to unpack.
What if I told you that he's actually not even including the killer gargoyle and unicorn made out of stone, which stand outside the Doctor's mansion, which he owns? What if I told you the Master is a presence in this, and he's not included in this rundown list? And what if I told you that the handbag-worshipping aliens are in the form of Red Riding Hood and other fictional characters from literature?
I mean, people take the mick out of Big Finish for the dartboard approach, but my god.
I wouldn't call this the dartboard approach. I would call this, from Paul Mars, the LSD approach.
I feel like I need to take some legal substances and experience
I would say this book is a legal substance. Not to smoke, maybe, but like you can read it, and that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Do you have any major pressing questions from this chunk of text?
I know about the killer robot sheep already.
Yeah, that seems like something I would have told you about.
Stay back!
This has got to stop, said the Doctor, and I demand an explanation as to what you are all up to. You can't go drawing fictional people on the Earth. They're suggestible enough as it is down there. Our senses have detected a certain ripple of ontological doubt in the culture of this world.
And they have called it postmodernity.
Postmodernity. These people expect, and what's more, entirely deserve, to have their cognitive barriers disrupted.
This is the wolf from Little Red Riding Hood who is saying this.
Oh, okay. So it's...
Yeah, just so you know.
Okay, okay. World of fiction shenanigans.
Not even. We're not even in the land of fiction. That would be too easy.
Oh my... But referentiality is one thing. Turn up on Earth, claiming to be Banquo's ghost or Grendel's mother, and expecting the council to give you a flat is quite another.
All right, Doctor.
What kind of deluded nincompoops ever believe they could invade the Earth posing as fictional characters? Are you all bonkers?
In a postmodern age, began Little Red Riding Hood, when the paradigm shift means that the epistemological dominant has been replaced by...
Bollocks, said Iris.
And it does keep going like this. Let's go to 1, 2, 1.
Yeah, sure, okay. Oh my god.
It was very good of Mars to bring his book to a screeching halt and just shit on the internet for 3 pages.
We ourselves invented these ludicrous categories of postmodernism and self-referentiality and metatextuality just to cover up our silly mistake. Of course we thought we were going to look realistic, but we don't, and we have to. And we had to infiltrate your culture with something as silly as postmodern theory just to get at the game.
So, is there a postmodern essay in the middle of this Doctor Who book? Yes. Is it thematically relevant? Also yes. I understand looking back at the earnestness of old sci-fi, especially the Pertwee era. Paul Mars is probably the most postmodern writer I know, so I think he sees the way he interacts with this old legacy media, this pure era. I think he thinks he's tainting it. Like, come on, Iris Wildtime as a character cannot be anti-postmodernism. I am now going to eat my degree live on camera. And for our final fact, I was right about planes. Back when Broke Canon was new, I made this shitpost about how airplanes are incredibly scary and the most recurring villain in the Doctor Who series. It'd take you from here to all the way over there. Yep, that's planes. Overall, they're the first villain I will give an F rank to. No, I don't really get what was going on there either. This year, a fellow YouTuber, Paul Verhoeven, who I've been following since, the early days of the site. This year, he got his first Doctor Who credit on a Short Trips collection. And do you know what his priority was when given the reins of the Doctor Who franchise? He decided that all planes in this universe don't run on fuel, they run on human fear.
Well, Skyliners don't pay for fuel. They don't need to. They use an entirely green, entirely renewable, utterly improbable form of energy. Fear, she answered, staggered by the sheer, stark audacity of the idea. Oh yes, he bellowed, rubbing his hands together. Fear. All a Skyliner needs to soar miraculously through the air is at least 20 people per cabin who are scared. Not frightened out of their wits' mind. All Beldura Air need is that background fear, that ambient dread, that creeping voice in the back of your mind muttering, what if we crash? And all of that nervous energy is kept at a rolling boil by endless fake headlines. Anytime people get too calm, stories are leaked. A monolithic and frankly surreal PR engine whirs to life. You pick up the paper. A crash somewhere in the Atlantic, a technical fault. More snakes on a different plane, whatever it takes, however, to bump up fuel levels. None of it real, but all of it using people's pre-existing fears to create clean energy.
Human fear is what keeps airplanes in the sky. You have to remember with Doctor Who, whenever you return to the modern day, that is not our world. The Doctor Who-niverse has developed science that can extract human emotions and use it as a source of fuel. Like Monsters Inc. We live in the Monsters Inc. timeline.
Beldura Air. And now, as you're no doubt aware, they are the sole means of flight across the planet, have been for over a decade.
If you think I'm taking this out of context or being melodramatic, no, every other airline has been run out of business. Phenomenally silly. Brilliant stuff. Hawa Hassan is one of these such people. Huge phobia. And all would have been going fine if she hadn't been placed next to this guy going on about death statistics, cabin fever, and the faults that usually make airplanes crash. This person turns out to be Doctor Who.
Hawa, I have to ask you something. Something very important. Are you hyperventilating? I think so. He gave a small fist pump. Yes, he exclaimed victoriously before registering her appalled expression.
Arsehole. The only way Doctor Who can save the day this time is by casually terrorising the poor woman next to him. Still not like the worst doctor you could be sat next to on a commercial flight, though. Hartnell claps when the plane lands. Smith is trying to fly the plane, and Tennant specifically doesn't have a good reputation for being a passenger. His Uber passenger score is low. It was this comic book story, where a guy's just trying to get home on the bus, and there's this guy next to him. We all think we'd like to be in a Doctor Who adventure, but really you'd be this guy. Doctor Who is the fantasy-heightened version of that weird fucker on the train who keeps swearing and licking the seats.
Stay in your seat. No, I'm sorry, sir.
There you go. Engine expert duty.
Sorry, sir. If you could...
Clearly this doctor has not learned his lesson from antagonising humans in small cabins. So how did this happen? Well, capitalism. Constant human pursuit for efficiency. It's a renewable energy source, but it does depend on communal terror. I don't know if the writer is trying to make a statement there.
Originally, they weren't going to do fear, they tested it with annoyance. I always joke that public transport was designed to make the lower classes hate one another. But airplanes packing you like sardines, they're just generating the fuel. This is for your own good.
That motherfucker back there is not real. And you can sit on this plane and you can fucking die with them or not.
Somehow, though, this is a secret to the general public. I mean, of course it'd have to be. If that myth gets out, then every single plane around the world crashes, because the jig would then be up. They tried harvesting human annoyance to try fuel the craft, but it's not potent enough, it's not hard enough. Hiring crying babies, overbooking flights. As someone who got stuck in an airport terminal for 12 hours this year, let me tell you, I'd be generating enough annoyance for the entire line. Hey, don't blame Missy or the toy maker. Planes crash all the time in this show, and now I think we know why. My takeaway from this is that in the future, cowardly people can be used as a battery. Very exciting news. The Doctor Who universe has gone carbon neutral, but at what cost?